The Culture Pop Podcast is brought to you by the law offices of Jacob Emrani.
Accident or injury, call Jacob Emrani. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mace. If you or a friend or loved one is injured in an accident, the first person you should call is my friend Jacob. When I did this, Jacob was great. He helped me by talking through the next steps, which really put my mind at ease. When you're injured in an accident, you got to have an expert. That's why you call Jacob, just like I did. Call Jacob, 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB, or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Culture Pop Podcast. I'm Steve Mason, along with Sue Kalinsky. This is the show where we talk about everything happening in the world of pop culture. Great guest today, Pam Brady, who is the co-creator of 100% American Family, which is a new animated series on Prime. We'll talk to her. And of course, she wrote on South Park and Team America. She's got a wild comedic sense about her. Speaking of a wild comedic sense, Sue Ballou, you. Wild comedic sense. That's what I have when I think of you.
Oh, why, thank you. You're so kind.
So, wow, I'm looking at myself. I kind of look sexy with this unbuttoned thing going on.
Look at this, showing your jewels.
Exactly. Well, not my jewels, but
your upper jewels.
Exactly. So what's been going? We have not done this in a while. I have missed you. I've missed the show. What has been happening? You've been traveling. I've been traveling. What's going on?
When did your hair become white?
Well, yeah, no, it's been a while, but yes, I get it. Yes.
I've been traveling. I was in New York for a little bit, and then I went to a town called Ribera in New Mexico, like 40 miles outside of Santa Fe.
Okay.
Just beautiful. A friend of mine actually bought property there a long time ago. Her brother bought property before her. So between them, they have 100 acres of land.
Wow.
So her property butts up against his. She hasn't done anything with hers. He built this amazing home. It's the most beautiful house I've ever been in my life.
Oh, wow.
You know, they're the whole family. They're very much into like folk art. So it's like being in a very cozy museum.
Oh, that's nice.
You know, major, tall, high ceilings. You look out. It's glass. It's adobe. There's wood. There's brick. And you look out from any area of where he lives, and it's just land as far as you can see. It's
that's beautiful.
It's like being in the Old West.
Really? Oh, wow, that's beautiful.
Just gorgeous. Yeah.
So it's like, great. Was it meditative? Did you party a lot? What happened at this beautiful house?
Well, it was kind of a combo. You know, I don't really smoke pot too much. The last time I got high was with you when you and Juan came over for dinner. I took a couple of hits on the pen.
You were super rocked.
I was super rocked with like 2 hits. So they have a ritual. They're huge pot smokers. Yeah. So, and they're flower people. So they have a ritual in a corner of the living room. They have a table and like 3 chairs. And
okay.
They call it Chatty Cathy Corner.
Okay.
So probably 3 times during the day, we would hit the table and I smoked pot nonstop.
Really?
So I smoked a lot of pot.
Nice. That sounds fun.
Took 5-mile hikes every day on their property.
Beautiful.
Beautiful like trails, but rocky with like dirt trails with rocks. We were walking with ski pole, like one ski pole.
Okay.
And they call them the up and downs because you're going up, you go down, you go up, you go down. So it's very strenuous. And then we did yoga one day.
Nice.
And that was great.
Were you stoned?
Not for yoga.
Oh, see?
Naturally stoned.
You know what's so weird? They're up the street from me. There's a yoga studio. And on Sunday nights, they do a class where in a very ritualistic way, you smoke pot, then you do the yoga class. I'm thinking, I should try that. That sounds actually pretty fun. Well, it sounds like a great trip. I would be hanging out at Chatty Cathy Corner.
Absolutely.
A lot of the time. Yeah, we went to Costa Rica. It was beautiful. We went to our favorite place, which is called Rio Perdido. There is, if you go to Instagram, there's a picture. Juan is very camera shy, does not want to be in any photographs at all. It's a hard and fast rule. But when we were whitewater tubing, there is a picture where the water just happened to cover his face. And so I posted that and said, me and Juan tubing. And it's really amazing. He's sort of like Mr. Wilson from Home Improvement. You never see his face, including in that shot. But we had just a great time. Great time. Although I gained weight, which sucks. I just got on the scale, 199. My God.
And so how much weight did you gain?
Probably 5 pounds.
And that food, drinks, what do you attribute it to? Because you look like you're very active on these trips.
I am active. I can't quite, there were probably too many desserts. I love dessert. I'm a big fan of dessert. I'm pro dessert. Multiple times I had double desserts, which is probably not something probably double desserts is too much. So I should have gone single desserts. I went doubles.
So I am like you. I am total dessert crazy.
Yep.
But I bought these pops that I discovered through, my niece turned me on to them.
Okay.
They're called Yasso Pops, YASSO. And they're yogurt pops. And I'm not crazy about all the flavors, but one of the flavors.
Like popsicles or are they?
They're popsicles, okay? But one of the flavors is a coffee chip, and it is delicious. So what do? I eat them because they're not fattening. I mean, they're yogurt based,
but
right?
You eat a bunch of them.
Well, a lot of times I'll have 2. But last night I ate 1, and then right at like maybe an hour later, I just had coffee ice cream.
So it was a gateway. It was a gateway pop.
Totally.
Yeah. It's funny. My dad would always. Do you know what a dilly bar is?
No.
They sell them at Dairy Queen. They're just like ice cream, white ice cream dipped in chocolate, and they come on a stick. And my dad he used to get a box of dilly bars. He'd sit in his easy chair, and he would eat the entire box. Like, what the hell are you doing? My dad when he was in his chair, he was uncontrollable. He would finish whatever he had. So it could be peaches, it could be dilly bars, it could be candy, but whatever it is, my dad was going to finish the entire thing. So ultimately we had to ration his dilly bars.
Well, you see, growing up, did you have Carvel where you grew
No,
up
we
in
did
Ohio?
not have Carvel.
Okay, because Carvel, where I was growing up, and I think if you go to a Carvel, I think they still have them.
Okay.
You would get a cone of vanilla or chocolate. You could get a combination, and they dip it in hot chocolate, and then it hardens.
Yes,
And
that's what my dad was eating.
Okay, so they were called brown bonnets.
Yeah,
but it's same thing.
Box of dilly bars. So, all right, Sue, we got so much to catch up on. So we're going to talk about 3 things before we get to Pam Brady. Number 1, F1, the movie, which is out everywhere right now. It is a worldwide hit. It is directed by Joseph Kosinski, the same guy that did Top Gun Maverick. He co-wrote and directed the movie. Brad Pitt plays Sonny Hayes, who's kind of a old-timey driver who decides he's going to try to give it one more go in F1. Sue, what was your initial takeaway from F1, the movie?
I loved all the car racing. It was the same feeling I had when I saw Maverick. It was like being in a fighter jet. And I thought it was very authentic. That's what I really, really loved about the driving, because a friend of mine, we were talking about a lot of car racing movies, and sometimes you'll see 2 drivers and they're looking at one another and they're kind of, giving each other shit. And it's like, there's no time to do that. If you're really car racing, you don't do that. You're just focused on the road.
Yes.
So that to me is that's what I love most about the movie. The story, it's,
I've seen this story.
Old
washed up guy comes back, wins. Oh, spoiler alert, wins.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But if you want action, if you want just a cinematic thrill ride, this is your ticket right here. And this is what summer movies are supposed to be. They're supposed to be big and fun and loud and look great on a big, gigantic screen. I didn't see it in IMAX, but apparently in IMAX it is spectacular. I have friends who are big F1's fans. They watch Drive to Survive, and one of my friends went to the race in Monaco this year. She's crazy about it. She says the racing is very, very real, that they did a really good job of pursuing sort of that realism. The other thing, just Brad Pitt is so cool.
He is.
He's just ridiculously cool.
Yeah.
And I will say...
And he drove the cars out. Whenever he drove, whenever saw him behind the wheel, he was actually driving the cars out onto the track.
And I will say this, an extremely good-looking man.
He really is very handsome.
He's just a good-looking guy. He's super cool. You know what I kept thinking through the whole thing is, he's in that... He reminds me now of actors sort of in that Steve McQueen, old Robert Redford, old Paul Newman. Like, he feels like one of those kinds of movie stars now. He's got like this really cool vibe about him. He looks great. And this movie is just one shout out here. Hans Zimmer did the score. Damn, that score works. I mean, it works. And the racing stuff, spectacular. I am a huge fan of just going to the movies and seeing a big fat hit, and that's what this is.
Agreed.
So F1 does not disappoint. All right, now, I think the best show this year on television is The Pitt on HBO Max. I started watching it, and originally I thought, this is too much for me to watch. In fact, in the very first episode, there's a gruesome injury that's being treated, and I'm like, I can't deal with the blood. I can't deal with the crying and the screaming and the terror and all that. I got sucked into it, and I watched that thing. Like, I had to watch that thing compulsively. It is such a real take on what it must be like to be in an emergency room. And one of the things I love about this is that it's told in 1 hour increments. It's a 15-hour stretch, and you're watching it hour by hour as the day goes along. And Noah Wyle, this is just an unbelievable performance. And I watched ER a little bit. I don't remember ER being this, and it was a great show, but nothing like this. This is like taking all that to the next level. Unbelievable cast. Casting directors did a great job finding really interesting actors throughout the show, both people who turned out to be patients and people who were residents and people who were learning and all that. I just think I was blown away by The Pitt. What did you think?
I feel the same way. And I love that it was a shift. It was a 15-hour shift. So you really got to see, from the first hour of what it's like to the 15th hour of what it's like. And I listened to an interview with some of the writers from the writers' room. And what was it? What's his name? Scott 𝐁𝐫𝐚𝐻. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
𝐏𝐚𝐦, I think.
𝐏𝐚𝐻. So he worked on ER, and he was talking about the casting, and he said he wanted to cast people that were not familiar. And I, as a viewer, I really appreciate that because, sometimes you watch shows and it's just rehashing a lot of the same people. Yep. And sometimes I'm like, I'm not finished thinking of an actor in a particular role. And then I too quickly see them in something else. And that's like, I haven't watched off your last show.
Yeah,
and now
true.
You're all of a sudden, you're somebody completely different. And it's not, it's not a dig on the actor. It's just, it was great that he did that, I thought, because they're all new.
And it's funny, I was watching, we don't think about casting very often, right? We see the thing and we don't think. I was watching The Bear last night, and we'll talk about it on an upcoming show. I'm a couple episodes in. But the great thing about The Bear is I didn't know any of those people. I didn't know any of those actors, including, everybody was new to me, including Jeremy Allen White. So, and that's very much the way it is here. There are so many good performances, and there are a couple that jump out at me. One is an actor named Catherine Lanassa. Now, she is the nurse that's in charge of the whole ER. And this thing is set in Pittsburgh. When I first saw her, I said, because she had a little bit of a Pittsburgh accent, just a little bit. And I thought, she's a local hire. I thought they hired her from Pittsburgh and wasn't because she was so authentic and felt so real to me. I loved her. And this is not just because Bryan Cranston is a friend of mine, but his daughter, I think, steals the show a lot of the time. Her name is Taylor Dearden. She plays a second-year resident. And she's, I'm going to try to get her on a show coming up, but she appears to be like on the autism scale a little bit, or at least understands the autism scale. And there's a sequence in there where somebody with autism comes into the emergency room and the doctors don't know what to do with this guy. And she walks in and just very, very speaks that language and is able to communicate with that patient in a way that nobody else could. And the very last episode, when she comes out and picks up her sister, I'm like, oh, this is such a sweet and heartfelt and original and creative performance. For me, the show very much, those three actors kind of steal the show for me. Noah Wyle, Catherine Lanassa, and Taylor Dearden. I think those are the three actors that really won me over. It's a great cast, but those are the three that jumped out at me.
Yeah. Well, Catherine Lanassa reminds me so much of Melissa Leo.
Oh, yeah. That's a good call. Yeah.
I'm watching her and everything about her attitude, she's got this tough exterior, and everybody kind of looks there. She's kind of the mother hen RN in the ER. Yep. And, talking about Taylor Dearden, you find out early on that her sister, and apparently it's her twin sister.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
They look nothing alike, fraternal twins, that she is autistic. So when she was taking care of that patient, I have a friend who has two autistic children. And one thing that is you have to be so aware of with autistic people is that too much stimulus, just like their brain, they can't embrace it. They can't manage it. It's just too much. So when she said, close the door to the room they were in, just bring it down a bunch of notches. And one thing, I was reading up about Noah Wyle. I was curious as to whether he was Jewish. I really don't know much about him. Because
his character's named Rabinowitz.
It's something.
Dr. Robbie. Dr. Robbie is whatever
Dr.
they
Robbie.
call him. Yeah,
but he did a Jewish prayer.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and when one of the younger doctors came in and brought him out of that room, told him to come out of the room, he was doing a Jewish prayer, and I was like, And then I read that he was Jewish, and he's a writer on the show. He's an executive producer, but he wrote 2 episodes, Noah Wyle.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
So I'm very curious as someone who is Jewish, because the prayer is all about faith in God, because he was like crumbling. He was falling apart in that room after he couldn't save that young woman.
Yes.
And he just couldn't leave. He couldn't go back and be a doctor.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if that was his idea to do that prayer. Yeah,
it's great. All the awards, I think that's at the Emmys. That should be Best Drama Series. I think Noah Wyle should win Best Actor. I think Catherine Lanassa and Taylor Dearden will both be nominated for Supporting Actor, Supporting Actress. And I just think and by the way, they're already working on season 2.
Right.
And I appreciate that. I don't want to wait 3 years to see the next season of The Pitt. I like it when shows come back on a yearly basis, even if it's a shorter run. And by the way, this is 15 episodes. This is a pretty significant run for a limited series these days.
Sure. And one other thing I want to mention is that I have a friend who volunteers at the ER at Cedars.
Yes.
And when the show first aired, we were talking about it, and she said it is the most authentic show about emergency rooms. And a lot of doctors are basically saying the same thing.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
they don't
If
have
you've
they
not,
like yeah they didn't have like a lot of these kind of like hackneyed stories. Like you didn't see like doctors having sex in a closet.
right.
All these things that you see, and you're like, does that really happen? Whatever.
Yeah, it felt
I that was great.
Yeah, it felt unbelievably real to me, and you have to have a stomach for it because there is blood, and they show everything, and I do look away when I see a needle go into an arm. Like, I can't watch. As soon as I see a needle and an arm, I turn away because I cannot look at the needle going into the arm.
Yes, and I tell you, I really tip my hat to actors who can speak doctor, like, because what rattles out of their mouths so effortlessly
Yeah.
is just like, I need a dictionary to understand a lot of what they were talking about, and it's just dialogue to them, but
Yeah.
it's that's something that was very, very authentic as well.
Yeah. We're working on getting somebody, maybe a couple people from the pit on the show because I was blown away by that show. All right, let's finish with Poop Cruise. So
Oh
Poop
my
Cruise
God.
is part of a new series called Trainwreck. It is on Netflix. It is about a famous cruise ship that they lost all power on, and ultimately they got stuck in the middle of everything with no toilets. I think it was for 8 days. And I'll tell you what, I think they did an unbelievable job at making this funny and snarky, because it is funny and snarky. Those three, and it's very well casted. Like the three women who are together talking about it, hilarious together. I thought the one downer is the dad who took his daughter, and he keeps like, I failed her. It's like, no, the boat failed her. You didn't fail her.
Right.
But here is this ship, and it basically turns into Lord of the Flies at some point.
Well, I renamed it Shitanic.
I love it. I love it.
I tell you something. I went on one cruise
Yep.
with Carol Leifer. She did a gig,
'Kay.
and it was not the ship wasn't as big as this ship. And we were hanging out at the captain's table. I mean, we really got treated like royalty, and we were able to go down and hang out with the crew in the crew bar. So
Right.
we could float, everywhere on the ship with passengers or whatever. But I am not a cruise person. The idea, to me, there's nothing more horrible than hanging out on a ship in the middle of the ocean where you're captive.
Yep.
And you're with, it's like a frat. It's like
Right.
being in a frat house.
If you look at those scenes, it's like people are shoulder to shoulder in the pool.
It's disgusting.
And then
And
I hate the
the
food.
food.
The
The
food is terrible. It's
And a
just like
lot of it.
people reaching into the food, and they don't have snot guards up on some of those, and
It's
disgusting.
just being around so many people that you don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
like I never do like tours and things like that, like when I go
Yeah,
on
yeah.
vacation. And so what do they do? So the power goes out, the toilets stop working, there's piss and shit like floating everywhere on 13 floors. And what do? They have an open bar, free bar.
That was the most ridiculous thing of all. It's like, yeah, let's open the bar. You're stuck in the middle of the ocean with no toilets. Let's drink. I mean, I'm sure it was fun for a minute, but they did have to cut the whole thing off. My favorite moment in the whole show is when the cruise director comes on and makes that announcement.
Right. But the number
You'll have
one and
a
number
red
two.
bag. Go number 2 in the red bag. And they cut away to the people who were on the cruise and like, what the fuck? I never fucking thought I would have to poop into a red bag. What has happened here? It is a crazy documentary. The thing I want to say about it, though, is it sounds disgusting. I originally wasn't going to watch it. And I started and I was like, oh no, I get it. This is funny. They're doing this in a funny, snarky way. So I strongly recommend Poop Cruise. I mean, I will not say that it's as good as F1 the movie. I will not say it's as good as The Pit, but I will say for what it is, it's really, really good.
It's the shit, literally.
It is the shit. Yeah. Oh, the shit lasagna thing.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Oh.
So the chef, here's the chef talking about how the toilet paper combined with the shit all mixed together looked like lasagna. And I'm thinking, you know what? I would never eat anything that this guy cooked.
Oh.
What a way to describe it. And now, just like the idea of eating lasagna, I can't. I won't be able to eat lasagna.
Are you off lasagna because of that? The shit lasagna thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, really fun. I think all these are strong recommendations. F1, the movie, great thrill ride of a summer movie. The Pit, if you are looking for just a realistic take on what an emergency room is like, The Pit on HBO Max. And then your dessert is Poop Cruise.
Oh, man.
So, we covered a lot of ground there. I like that. Hey, if you are listening, watching right now, please subscribe to the channel, whether it's a YouTube or Apple or Spotify. Do that right now. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. Leave us a comment right underneath here. You want to react to how you feel about F1 the movie or The Pit or Poop Cruise. You can do that on YouTube. And if you've got a friend who you know would love this podcast, who's into pop culture, into everything that's happening in pop culture, make sure to tell them about the show. We're always looking for new listeners, new followers, new fans. All right, so here we go. Our guest today is a veteran comedy writer. You know her from South Park, Team America. Now, along with Ramy Youssef, she has created 100% American Family, a new animated series on Prime. Pam Brady joins us. Pam, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And thank you for inviting me. I'm super excited to be here and talk to you.
Really big fan of the show. It is so funny, first, and then culturally relevant, too. It feels like it's an important show for right now. What drew you into this Egyptian-American family in New Jersey?
Well, it's funny because I honestly, it all started because I'm just a fan of Ramy's. And so we met, this all started way back 5 years ago. And I was just like, begging my manager. I'm like, please, can you just get me a meeting with him? And I don't know if you've watched his Hulu show.
Yes, yes, Ramy, yep.
Yeah, and there was an episode where there was a flashback to him as a kid. And he has this sort of like, dreams scene with Osama bin Laden in his kitchen.
Yep.
So he always had in the back of his mind that he wanted to explore stories about his childhood, but he thought the best way to do it was animation. So anyway, as I meet with him, I'm just like, I'm a fan. I want to meet you. And he's just like, I may have an idea. So that's how, and I'm like, I would help him move. I would do anything for him.
Wow. Pick him up at the airport, probably. Yeah.
I would do anything. I would rent a van, whatever he needs. Because he's just the next level talent.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a genius.
Yeah. So, the first thing before you came on, Steve was like, so what'd you think of the show? And I said, oh, I love the show.
Right.
And my second thing that I said was, I can't believe that you guys actually made the show, that this got greenlit because of the nature of the show. And although, like Steve said, culturally important, I just think that studio had the balls to make the show.
It's great. Amazon really was cool about it. And A24 backed us all the way. I think, the fact that it was Ramy's story, I think if I went in there, I said, I'm going to explore an Egyptian family. I don't think they would be as receptive. But no, we got so much support. And I think everybody involved, Amazon, A24, realizes how seriously, Ramy takes it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That it wasn't going to be, just, controversial to be controversial. And honestly, 5 years ago, it wasn't as controversial as it is now. That's what's so weird. We wanted to also explore how do we end up here? without
Right.
talking about Trump and without it's a little ham-fisted to satirize today. I mean, it's just too hard. So we thought, all right, let's go back, 20 plus years ago and just go to the origins of like a surveillance state. And how did the fear start? How did we get here? So anyway, so we never, ever thought we'd be where we are. It's so much worse than when we started production.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think of Hussein's speech in episode 1, where he says, we must blend in, change our values, change everything about who we are to fit in, never stick out. My heart goes out to Muslim Americans who were in that situation after 9/11 and really amplified their otherness, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, I think it was horrible. And we had, a lot of our writers, went through this, and and a lot of people had, the different experiences were either their families like embraced their outsider. It's almost like Sharia. She put on the headscarf and it's like, there's nothing wrong with my religion. And I am going to become more religious to show you that this is a peaceful religion. And then other people go the Hussein way and put like the Lucky Charms guy up on his roof. And, and in real life, an FBI guy did move across the street from Rami. So that really was
Really? By happenstance, right?
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah, right.
That's funny because I thought of the show The Americans when that
That's
character came out.
It's funny you bring that up because I don't know if that we were conscious of it, even though there's so much of Dan that's like Stan. And but I think things get in there. You steal from the best.
Oh, exactly. That's what they say. Steal from the
Yep.
best. But and I know this is an adult animated series, yet I do feel that kids can really get a lot from it. And I think of like I grew up. I'm Jewish, and I think of what happened in Charlottesville, and I'm sure there were Jewish children saying to their parents, if they happen to see the news, why are these people marching with torches, chanting, "Jews will not replace us"? What is going on here? Why? And then going to school and just feeling like, is someone going to hurt me?
Right.
It's absolutely horrifying. And honestly, like when we started conceiving the show, part of it was like, oh, we want to make it feel like if you turn this on, that someone could say, oh, did you see this? This was actually on Nickelodeon in 98. And just like, so that even the art and the feel and the style and all that stuff, because it's almost like it would be the dream show that Rami wishes he had, that it would have been comforting to him.
So there's like a nostalgic vibe to it, right?
Oh, big time. Yeah. Big time. Yeah.
And the colors are different too. The palette is a little, is it a little bit more muted? Is that how you would describe
There's like
it?
a saturation. Yeah. Desaturated sort of feel. We were trying to go for, I don't know if you remember the animated show Doug that was on Nickelodeon. And almost like Rugrats. We wanted to kind of go away from the sort of Fox big, it seems like there's a look that's of animation today that's very much Fox and very much Rick and Morty and stuff like that. So we wanted to be a little retro and we really designed it to make it look a little like homemade.
Yeah.
And we actually worked with a Malaysian studio. So it's majority Muslim animators. And
Oh, wow.
and their sort of facilities we had to downgrade our computers to be able to talk to them because we wanted that 90s look. But
Yep.
it was like they were the perfect, but it was also really cool on the creative end of like they would interpret our storyboards and like kind of focus in on different things that I don't think an American animation studio would have done. And it was just really cool to have like, oh, we're going to have this time in history reinterpreted,
Yes.
by a Malaysian point of view. So that was extra cool.
Well, the animation is like a character in of itself in a show.
Yeah.
And I wonder how many incarnations did you go through to land on what you finally is the show?
Oh, we went. Mona Chalabi, who is our other executive producer, she sort of designed the look and then brought on a team to help her. But we worked on this till the end. There was constant refinements, and that's what I love so much about even the writers and all the artists on the show is that really focused on detail because we worked on this through the pandemic and we were just obsessed. You know, like every detail. Let's talk about what's on the first shelf of the living room. What's on the second shelf? We even went to the refrigerator. You know what I mean? And I think people got so into it that we, up until the end, we were always like working at the layout of the house. And so it was really cool.
That is cool. That is. So I want to circle back to the show, but can I ask you a little South Park?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So when did you realize, because it's a cultural institution, I literally half my life I've been watching South Park. When did you realize that it did become a cultural institution?
I think we felt it early on. I think as soon as Kenny got on the cover of Rolling Stone, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I mean, it happened so fast. That's the thing. I mean, because I was there since the beginning.
Yeah.
And you know, when we were working on it, you never know. And you know, Comedy Central like bought one script, and then like 6 months later, they bought a second script. Like, and when you're 22 or 23, it's just like, well, this is never going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But then once it went on, I think it was just the fact that, you know, Comedy Central was such a fledgling place, and it was in a time that, you know, a show could just explode. So I do think there's just something about the show that just felt inevitable. You know what I mean? Like when you watch certain scene, you're like Trey and Matt, you're like, oh, this is going to happen. But it really was, I think, after the first or second airing, and then the Rolling Stone cover, you're like, this is a good ship. I mean, I don't know if I ever could have guessed it was going to stay on the air for 28 years.
That's crazy. 28 years. Amazing.
I mean,
amazing.
It's so cool. And it's also because those guys are still there. Most shows, the showrunner moves on, and this is their baby. And it's the most bespoke, you know, thing. And I think that's why it's so brilliant.
How did you get connected with Trey and Matt?
Well, that story. I was a young executive at Fox, and I was working. You know, Stephen Chow. Do you remember that guy?
Sure.
Stephen Chow?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So he was a legendary madman, and he was the guy that actually threw Dick Cheney's dog into a pool, like Murdoch's pool, because they're having an argument whether or not dogs learn to swim or whether or not dogs have the innate ability, like they born with the, you know, ability to swim.
Right.
And he picked up Cheney and anyway. So this was his little division called Fox TV Stations Productions, which later became Fox Lab, and a guy named Brian Graydon, who went on to run MTV, took over that group. So it was a bunch of people that just graduated college, and one of my friends from college brought me in. We made no money, but they called us executives. So I was like straight out of college, and we're like, I have a meeting, and I was trying to be a writer, couldn't get a job. My boss, Brian Graydon, at the time said, I'll give you some money. You could start, a scripted division. And so I'm like, that's boss around writer sounds even better.
Yeah.
And I saw something that Trey and Matt did for The Big Picture on MTV. And I called them up. I'm like, I'm a major Hollywood executive, and you should come out to Hollywood and have a meeting. And I took them to Spago on Sunset.
Wow.
Because I was watching Entertainment Tonight. I'm like, where does everybody go? And we're like,
Yep, that's the spot.
So we started drinking, and then finally I go, I've had my job for 3 months. I don't know what I'm doing. And they're like, we're in college. And so honestly, that was the beginning of just our friendship, and just a great lesson of don't BS people. Just show your card. And we just stayed friends. And so then
that's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, MTV back in the day, because I started working at MTV. I worked on the Osbournes.
Oh, okay.
So those days at MTV, was the inmates ran the asylum. They let us do whatever we wanted. No production company. It was just, we were independent contractors, but it was just us and MTV. And they would come in, and every now and then, drinking a beer. People would go out and smoke pot, come back into the bay and edit the shows. Some executives. There was one editor that he always edited high, and they actually said, "You keep on giving him pot because we love what he's doing."
That's brilliant. Editing high is a great idea. So when you were there, was Brian around, or was Brian,
He wasn't. It was Lois.
Yep.
And
Lois.
Lois was there, and oh God, what's his name? I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. But
not Scott St. John.
Scott St. John. I don't remember. Okay. Oh, Rod Asa was there.
Okay.
And Greg Johnson, he was the only MTV hire. He was one of the showrunners, but everybody else was just picked from, just plucked out of nowhere to work on the show. And it was, I've been chasing that high ever since.
I bet that must have been so fun. That must have been so fun. So you knew Brian Graydon, right? So
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Well, an old boyfriend of mine was the host of Remote Control. So
who was
Kenny Ober.
Oh my God! Of course. Okay. Wow. Okay.
So I knew of Brian from Kenny.
Okay, that's very cool. See, Jewish geography.
There you go.
There you go. So, I went to see the Eagles recently, and they had, famously had problems. They were together for a long time, then they broke up, and Don Henley said, I won't work with Joe Walsh again until hell freezes. How have you, and that happens with a lot of bands. How has your band stayed together, Trey, Matt, and you?
Well, I'm excited that you're considering us a band. I mean, I think sort of their relationship, I mean, they really do share, like, they have a Borg brain. It really is amazing sort of to watch how they work, because they sort of approach creative problem solving slightly differently, but it's essential that they're both there. You know what I mean? I think Matt is like a satirist, like, like on the Mark Twain level, where, he will even say this, that he loves to argue, and he'll argue about anything. And Trey doesn't like to argue, but Trey is a genius, and he knows how to sort of, he could tell any story. But Matt Shippen's like, well, let's take on weight, like, sort of anti-smoking and turn it into like, why can you eat, Burger King and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right.
Rob Reiner episode. And you know what I mean? So I think I'm in there just to sort of like, I'm sort of, what's it called? I'm like a buffer.
Well, call yourself the glue. You're the glue.
The glue. Oh my God, the glue. Yeah, buffer implies I'm pushing them apart. I'm the glue.
Yeah.
I don't want to get in fights. And early on was like, we never knew, I mean, we were doing the show in 6 days, and you never knew if it was going to get done. And incidentally, I also had another job at the time too, because I was like,
really?
Yeah, I worked sort of legit sitcom. So I was on Just Shoot Me.
Sure.
Yeah, it was
a good show.
Yeah, it was super fun. But then at night I would work on South Park.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was just a way of just saying, that I think it was just, sometimes you need a voice in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there ever an idea that got pitched that you originally thought, no way, can't do it, that's going too far, that wound up getting in?
Oh, that's a great question. I was probably very cowardly on a lot of levels. Like, I think I was always one like, oh my God, we're never going to finish this. I also think that having that voice in the room was like an energizing voice, especially to Trey. And he's like, we can't do this. And he's like, well, yes, we can. And I really meant it. I was like, well, it was really a lot of drama. I was bringing the drama.
Yeah, right. Good.
But I can't remember anything like, the Scientology one was incredible.
The Scientology one is amazing.
I mean, I don't think I ever voted not to do it, but I think it's also, it was past the time when Scientology was truly scary.
Do you know what I mean? I think it still scares me. Yeah.
They're going to come and get you.
Dianetics, the book came out 50 years ago today. I just happen to know that because I did my radio show. So Dianetics, you can get a free copy over there by the Celebrity Center, I think.
Yes. They will bring you in. Personality test you. Well, we found out from somebody, I think it was when the Village Voice still existed, that all of our trash got gone through.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Like, they're looking, like, good luck if they're going to make sense out of my trash. But, I don't know what they were looking for, but that was the rumor. That was an amazing episode.
That's a crazy episode. Yeah. Yeah. It's a benchmark episode for sure.
I would think that working on an animated show must be so liberating, because the things that you get away with cartoons is so much greater than live action. Like, I think of some of the notes, because I worked in scripted and I worked in reality, and we would get notes that were so ridiculous. You know? Yeah. I mean, just thinking that the audience was so moronic that they wouldn't get how someone got from A to B. Like, we had to show them driving the car to get there, How did they get there? They flew in a plane. I mean, they got there, whatever. So talk about that. I mean, because you've done films and you've done scripted.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, and it is funny that you bring that up. We used to call there was one executive, I forget what network we were at, but it was like they released a Tina timeline and everything. You're like, where are we in the day? You're like, well, that's to make it 4% funnier. It's like, do we know where we are and what time it is? But it really depends. Like, but I think South Park really carved out a unique sort of spot for themselves, and I think actually with #1 Happy Family USA, we got lucky too. But I've worked on animated shows where the threshold for pushing satire, like the lawyers weren't as willing to take on risk because anybody can sue you over anything. I remember we were doing some joke about Katie Couric, and it wasn't making fun of Katie Couric because I think Katie Couric's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was just wanting Katie Couric to be interviewing someone. And they're like, oh, here's the thing. You can't show Katie Couric unless you're satirizing Katie Couric. And it's a clear. So we had to make a joke. That's why if I ever run into Katie Couric, I'm going to apologize for this. But of course, nobody saw the show. It was called Neighbors from Hell that we did for TBS. It was a Jeffrey Katzenberg joint. And TBS said, no, push it. Really either make her look weird or give her something you're making fun of. Because that way we can defend it more easily.
Yeah.
And it bummed me out so much because I'm like, I don't want to make fun of Katie Couric.
But you had to. You had no choice.
I had to. I mean, we didn't really do we all like her, so we didn't really do much, it was just lame. But yeah, I mean, I think satire, when you're a little like abstract, you can get away with more. You know what I mean?
Right.
It hits different. It hits actually in a weird way, in a more real way.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because if you just have a person there, it just, something gets in the way. And I actually think the more abstract your drawing is, like that's why South Park's so good. It's so clearly, it almost looks like kids just did it.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then it becomes funnier because, again, Neighbors from Hell, it was so articulated. Everything looked like a feature movie. And it's like, wow, this is not funny.
Right. And look, especially if you have an animal saying it, like the lamb or, the dog.
Oh, yeah, the talking lamb.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
I'm a sucker for, I just can't wait for animals to talk. I really,
I love it.
Yeah.
It's coming.
I think it has to come.
By the way, my puppy dog, I'll just tell this story. My puppy dog, we said goodbye to this past weekend.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
After 18 and a half years.
Yeah.
But she has a voice. All my dogs have voices. So Sophie's voice. Hello, this is Sophie. Hi, this is Sophie. And then Hollis, who's also in heaven. Hello, this is Hollis Mulray. And then Ron. Here's what we're going to do. See, he's a 30s talker. So every one of my dogs has a voice. So weirdly, I never say goodbye to any of my dogs because they continue to talk around the house. So that's a recommendation I can make. Talking pets are good for you.
That's really sweet. You ought to get someone to draw your dogs and
animate them. Sure. So I want to know from you, what is the difference or where is the line between funny and mean?
Okay, that's a heady question.
Thanks.
I think it's. I guess if something is funny, I think it has to have a point. So I worked on the Harry and Meghan episode of South Park that came out, I guess, in 2019 in the Worldwide Privacy Tour.
Yeah, they're certainly beloved figures.
That was mean and funny, I think. You know what I mean? Because it really just hauls off on them. But the kernel of truth is, why are they everywhere if they want to be left alone?
I mean, I just saw them at a Lakers game. I'm like, if you want to be left alone, you don't go to the game.
Yeah, and they do put pictures, even though it's behind the kids. Like their kids are on social media, but then they're saying social media is destroying children. Just back out of all of it. So that's. I almost think like you don't want to kick down. I think in terms of just like who's a good target for your joke, right. And I think it has to be, you're taking a shot at powerful people.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's no. To me, that's you can be a little mean when you're going after powerful people who are just being jackasses.
Yes.
I think going after I don't know, people just being mean for no reason. It really is like just, truth to power kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It I don't know, seems sophomoric. Like, well, recently on Saturday Night Live, they made fun, and I forget the actress's name, who's on
Amy
White
Lee
Lotus.
Wood.
Amy Lee Wood. So they made fun of her teeth.
Yeah.
And it was really just mean-spirited, and it really wasn't funny. And the cast members actually apologized to her.
That's cool. I mean, you can't get it right all the time. You know, if
Yeah.
you're just making jokes and they're under a deadline, you know, sometimes you mess up. But yeah, that's a great example of like, I'm sure they were just being very musical about how they were popping around in the White Lotus sort of thing. And it just seemed like a funny little pop.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, it didn't really have a point because it's not saying anything about, you know, her teeth, or it's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to finish up with number one, Happy Family USA here. And Sue mentioned she's Jewish. I grew up, I mean, I didn't come out till later, but as a gay guy. And that otherness feeling is right there in number one, Happy Family USA. And what strikes me is that the more specific something is, the more universal it is. Do you get that?
I 100% believe that. 100%, because that's why sometimes I'm talking to people, they're like, well, how do you know what it's like to be an Egyptian, you know, in an Egyptian family? And, you know, everybody at age 12 feels a little awkward. And we're talking about code switching and stuff like that. And even though, you know, you can be part of, like, you can be white or, you know, and everybody kind of acts a little different in different rooms.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we tapped into, like, hopefully like a bigger feeling of just like feeling awkward, feeling like a kid, an outsider, not understanding the world, by zeroing in on sort of this very specific experience. So, I mean, that's what was so fun about it, you know, and because we all have grandparents also, you
Sure.
know, generational stuff. It's like, but the specifics, and it was so funny. It's like, well, you know, what would your mom, you know, I'd say to Rami, like, what would your grandmom do if she would get mad? And she was like, oh yeah, she would throw her, you know, her sandals. And you're like, whoa, okay. But
That's, you can work with
It's
that.
like Eisenhower.
Just like Eisenhower. So yeah, I 100% think, you know, we never wanted, I mean, we kept a bunch of like Arabic in it that wasn't totally translated, I think. And we never tried to go, because I always liked shows like Monty Python when I was growing up. I'm like, I didn't really catch all of it. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew there was something cool going on. Because you don't talk down to an audience, and just like, so that's why we were really presenting the real experience, you know, and just hope people got into it. Like, it would be like, what would be like visiting the real family.
So it is, it honestly is brilliant stuff. I was so happy with this show. I just think, it's an experience that we hardly can imagine. I mean, being Egyptian American right after 9/11, I mean, you've captured that. And I say all that, and then it's also really, really funny.
Oh, that means so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Steve. That's really cool.
So it's Great Mean You Really Love, number one, Happy Family USA, streaming now on Prime. Pam, thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks, Sue.
There you have it, Pam Brady, 100% American Family. I think a really original. And I mean, by today's standard, it's a pretty significant show in terms of what's happening in the country. And the way this family, this Egyptian American family, is dealing with what happens after 9. I mean, I just think it's a brave show. I think it's a courageous show.
So ballsy. And I am shocked that they greenlit the show.
I know.
You know? I mean, it was, when I first started watching it, I was like, seriously?
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I really tip my hat to whoever was responsible for saying, we have to do the show. It's an important show, I think.
It is an important show, especially what's happening right now in the country. Here's a story about immigrants who are doing their best after. I mean, I just think if you've not seen this show, you should check it out. It's on Prime, 100% American Family. You heard Pam talk. I mean, I just think it's really, really a terrific show.
Right. And just the idea that you're getting the perspective of people that you had just globally had an opinion about, and not realizing that, you know, you got to really hear what they were going through, you know?
Right. And the push to conform.
Yes.
And I think that's what probably every immigrant feels, is this push to conform. and how much of who you really are gets buried when you are conforming to everybody else's rules. So yeah, really good show. 100% American Family. It is on Prime. We've covered so much ground today, Sue. We've done F1. We've done the Pit. We've done Poop Cruise. We've done 100% American Family. No show is bigger than this. There you have it. There is your Culture Pop podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate you, and we will see you next time on the Culture Pop podcast.